blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere.
You are destroying the Constitution of the United States. May God have mercy on your souls.
Good day.
Yes.
Sir, say. Good day.
We could be saved if we just elected the right white man to power.
That's creepy, but that's in a different category of creepy.
Zit-zoo, zit-zoo, zit-zoo.
Gary Gygax. Of course he introduced zoning laws.
Okay.
You know what? Don't.
Yeah.
The less I have to do with that game, the better.
Here's my favorite part of the defense. Claudius was probably fucking his sister.
Jughead, not Jarhead. I have nothing against Marines. I want to make that very clear. I'd be really interested to find out what fucking truth that woman was trying to get at.
Like with most episodes, I can bring it back to wrestling. Oh. Right, well, he's got other people who work for him who also do things, and they can transmutate human size into smaller worlds, after all.
Fuck you.
I still don't give a shit about getting fake property in a fantasy game.
To the real world. I'm Ed Blaylock. I'm a distance learning world history teacher with one class of English students here in Northern California. And true to my history teacher roots, in order to cope with the current quarantine circumstances, when I needed to get a haircut rather than trying to storm my local state house, I handed a set of clippers to my wife, who then gave me a Viking haircut. I am now turning my head sideways for Damian to get a look at the awesomeness of this biatch.
Mm-hmm. It looks good. Oh, I didn't know it went that high up.
See, I got it freshened up today because our son, my little boy, who is 2 years old, needed to have his buzz cut freshened up, so my wife went over him with the trimmers at a lower setting than she'd done last time. The first time this all happened, he was starting to get shaggy and I was starting to get really shaggy too, so we took my beard / hair trimmer and set the guard at the absolute longest setting and ran it over my son's head.
Okay.
That was the very, very first thing that happened. And it looked pretty good. My wife did a really good job for a first-time amateur.
Sure.
And then just last weekend, about a week ago, on Saturday night, my wife took the clippers to my head because I figured it's the Ragnarok. Why the hell not? I'm going to get a Bjorn Ironsides haircut from Vikings. And we did the sides up like his. And then my wife decided she wanted to leave everything long on the top here. So for anybody who watches the show, my haircut actually winds up looking like something between Bjorn Season 2 and Bjorn Season 3.
It's a reverse mullet.
So
folks.
there's two.
I mean, it really is business in the back, party in the front.
Yeah. All business in the back, raiding in the front.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Is what it is, but to the Vikings, that's a party.
Sure.
So, and that's me rambling at great length because I'm a little drunk, and we'll explain that in a moment. But who are you, sir?
I'm Damian Harmony. I am a distance teacher as well. Aren't we all? A Latin distance teacher for most of my day, although I did get a couple of outlines for essays for my world history kids. I am a father of two. I am a pun comedian. I am a poet, a pauper, all the things. Actually, I came on so right before this show, I did my live Twitch stream show, which is twitch.tv/capital puns. And I did I came on and I started singing Frank Sinatra, just call me pun reliable, call me pun deniable. It didn't land well.
See, that's worth the price of admission right there.
Hey, fuck you. All right, people need to donate.
Yeah.
I want more price of admission. I want to not live up to it. So I think I might have just found the problem. No? Okay. So Sorry, my levels just went way up for a second. But
Yeah, I don't know. You may have bumped the gain. I don't know.
I don't know.
Leaning into
I
the
don't
mic.
know. But
All right.
anyway, so
We don't have producer George here, so
no, we don't, and we miss him.
hobbled by that.
That's one of the reasons Ed's drinking. Just one of many.
An important one. It's near the top of his list, but there is a list.
I am enjoying the fact out of this quarantine because everybody's cutting their hair and freaking out. I have had the same haircut since I was 27, where I just take the hair trimmers to myself and set it at 2 all the way around my head and call it good. That's it. It's just a quarter inch all the way around. Beard, top of the head, sagittal crest, everything. Well, I do the same thing for my son. And he's fine with it too. And my daughter's got long hair, so you can let long hair grow. So I'm like, everybody else is like, oh God, I gotta, you have style. I don't. I'm just like, I'm gonna get this shit done. Here, done. Like, the only time I change the setting is when I take the hair trimmer down to the nether regions. Like, that's the only time. Other than that, it's all just a 2.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just learned more than I needed to know. How about you all?
I'm joking. I use Veet, but I actually wrote a joke about that. It was pretty funny. But man, you know what we need to do? We need to get like one of those trim your ball hair commercials on our show. Like, see if like Manscaping will sponsor us.
Honest to God,
yeah.
After that joke, I think we have a 50-50 chance there. Mm-hmm. I'd say we're in the ballpark.
Ooh, nice. Sack it to you.
Oh, God. And it's a testament, ladies and gentlemen, to the fact that I am in fact inebriated, that I'm not telling him good day, sir.
This is true. This is true. Well, you come at me with puns. You literally are like throwing rocks at a man with a machine gun here. So it's
this is a good point.
Yeah. So, all right. So, God, there's something else I was going to say about this, but fuck it. Let's just jump right into it.
All right.
You're drunk.
I am.
Why?
Okay. Let's. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Have you like watched the news lately? No.
There was a well-regulated militia in Michigan.
Okay, before you go any fucking further, I'm gonna stop you right goddamn there. Okay.
These are no longer timeless.
Anybody who's been a listener. No, totally. 1, 2, anybody who's been listening to our blog for any length of time knows that of the two of us, I'm the token,
a podcast,
air quotes, conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm the token, air quotes, conservative, and I am the Second Amendment guy, and I'm gonna call that bullshit right now. There is nothing well regulated about that group of Meal Team 6 motherfuckers who stormed the Michigan State House. No, I'm sorry. No, those are terrorists who are cosplaying as soldiers. That's bullshit, period. Those are inadequate personalities who are using AR-15s as substitutes for personality.
Well, we said in a previous episode that a gun is a force multiplier, though. So, they're just using the tools that Jesus gave them.
And as the token Catholic in the room, no, Jesus didn't give them those. And anybody who has the money to be spending it on a couple of $1,000 toy fucking rifle is not in a position to need to go back to work right now as badly as any number of other people who really actually don't want to go back to work right now because they're scared for their health. So no.
Well, okay. Let me just push back a little bit here.
Fuck all of them.
Let me push back a little bit here. After the 4 Gospels, what's the next book of the Bible?
Acts.
Okay. And after that? It's Romans, isn't it?
I'm drunk. Yeah, Romans. Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And if you look
believe so.
At the 15th chapter of Romans, okay, you will find that it actually mentions the ability to arm yourself. That's why it's AR-15. Thank you. Checkmate, atheists.
Aren't you the atheist here?
Yeah, that didn't work as well.
Yeah, okay. You kind of, yeah. No.
Come on, AR-15,
And,
Acts Romans 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I get that.
Okay.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there, and you know what? That doesn't sound too far off from from what some of us nuts might actually try to argue.
There's also that.
See, somebody who's actually speaking of somebody who actually paid attention in my catechism before joining the Catholic Church. Bullshit. No. Like,
okay,
I cannot manage. I cannot effectively, especially after more than one beer. I'm not in a position to find the vocabulary to effectively express my scorn for anybody who wants to try to take that point of argument.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So anyway, you're drunk.
I am.
Why?
A little bit. Well, as I said a minute ago, have you watched the news recently? But really, our episode this evening is an excuse for me to use this particular maladaptive coping mechanism because for a long time now, like ever since the first time we did an episode on Tolkien, we've talked about how entertaining it would be to do our own version of drunk history, which would be drunk Tolkien. Which is to say, put several pints of beer in Ed and then ask him questions about the Lord of the Rings.
I like this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it.
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I've got a bunch of questions that aren't really in any order because I've only read Lord of the Rings or had it read to me once. So a lot of this is based on what I know of the movies. So it's going to be real fun.
Oh, we're already off to a rollicking start.
All right. Cool. Are you ready? Oh, he's taking another sip of... what are you drinking, by the way, in case we want to sponsor?
Okay. Well, what am I drinking right now?
Mm-hmm.
What I am drinking right now is a Syntax Imperial Peanut Butter Stout from Mother Earth Brewing Company.
Okay.
It is really, really good, and it is 8% alcohol by volume. It should be noted that before the episode started, I drank appropriately for a Tolkien podcast. I drank 2 Golden Drachs, which of course is the Germanic Belgian for Golden Dragon. I drank 2 of them. And actually what I drank were the Golden Drach 9000 quads, which is a 10.7% beer. For those of you who aren't, beer snobs listening at home, your average macro brew is about 5% alcohol by volume.
So it's more than double.
What I'm drinking tonight is this is the beer equivalent of rocket fuel.
All right.
I mean, it's not like I'm drinking hard liquor. Well, wait, but I have, because right after I put my son down to bed, I had more than one shot of bourbon because I knew that I needed to get started on a buzz in order to do this. And so, yeah.
You pre-drank Tolkien.
I'm toasted.
All right.
Yeah, I'm toasted right now.
So any errors that you make in speech are just going to be considered syntax errors.
Precisely.
All right. So,
yes.
Question number 1. The Ents.
Go.
Those are the big, tall tree things, right? All right.
Huorn and his brethren, yes.
Okay.
Fangorn Forest.
All right.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do anything about the orcs for so long, since they were clearly being burned for fuel for the orc factories?
Well, okay. First things first. The Ents themselves, of course, were not the ones being burned at first. The trees of Fangorn were the ones being burned, who were their larvae, for lack of a better word. In order to become an Ent, there had to be a tree for a very, 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 I got to add a whole lot more varies to that statement, long time before the tree would begin to gain consciousness. And then after it had begun to gain consciousness, as time went on, it would become more and more sentient until it would actually gain the ability to pick up its roots and walk. So, which then, of course, turns the question into, well, if it was killing their babies, why didn't they act faster?
Mm-hmm.
And what you need to remember about the Ents, of course, I want you to imagine the most truly conservative, not like right-wing conservative, but like, well, let's not be hasty conservative.
Sure, yeah.
Kind of person that you know.
Okay.
Genuine conservative, not reactionary, but genuine, like, okay, no, I understand we might need to do something, but do we need to do it right now?
Okay.
And I think to the extent that anything in the Lord of the Rings could be looked at as any kind of level of satire, I think maybe the Ents qualify.
Oh,
because they are kind of like anybody who's ever been involved in I'm gonna bring my own professional life into this. Anybody who's ever been involved in any kind of academic decision making.
I was just going to say parliamentary politics.
Yeah. As any level of parliamentary politics is well, we need to talk, and before we talk about it, we need to talk about what the rules are going to be before talking about it.
Right.
And before we talk about the rules that we're going to discuss, we need to talk about how we're going to discuss the rules for what we're going to discuss.
Right.
And and it's the meeting before a meeting before a meeting before a meeting to have the meeting, to then schedule the other meeting, kind of thing, taken to its
Nth
fantasy
degree.
Extreme. Yeah, nice. That's well done.
Thank you.
You know what? I ain't even mad. You can credit the stout for that. I'm not even mad.
Okay.
So yeah, the Ents are as close as an establishment figure like Tolkien could get to real satire.
Okay.
Is going to be my take.
Okay.
And also, by the way, it should be noted that the Treebeard,
mm-hmm.
the leader of the Ents, was a caricature of C.S. Lewis. Like that character was Tolkien giving his best friend shit.
Okay. All right.
Because the whom that Treebeard does was apparently the exaggeration of a verbal tick of C.S. Lewis's in conversation.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Go for it.
Tell me about the Eagles, Ed.
All right. Okay.
I immediately leaned away from the screen.
Just instinctively, because you were afraid you were going to get hit by beer transmitted via internet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. There are any number of edgelords, and I just want to point out the folks at How It Should Have Ended, HISHE.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great animators, funny guys, great satirists, but they take the easy way out sometimes in satire. And one of the things that they've done is an episode How the Lord of the Rings Should Have Ended, which was, well, we've got fucking eagles. Let's get on the Eagles and drop the fucking ring in like, a bombing raid over Dresden. Let's do that.
Right.
Okay. Here's the thing. Yes, on the surface, this looks like an awesome idea. Okay, look. So instead of walking, which, like, who the fuck is going to walk that far?
Right.
Let's utilize the air power we have, as a resource here, and get on the backs of the Eagles and drop the ring into the mountain, because we know what we got to do. And what that overlooks.
Time out. At some
Go
point,
ahead.
they
Go ahead.
had animals, and Gandalf himself had a wagon. They didn't have to walk even when they were walking. They could have, I don't know, they could have taken carts. They could have taken draft animals. They could have taken riding animals. They could have gone faster than short people walking. So even before we get to why not the eagles, I mean, was it because they didn't like the way that it sounded being on a cart? Like, was the sound of their own wheels making them crazy? I mean, why not just take it easy?
Okay.
I mean, they
For
started
that
on a
one, I'm
corner
gonna
in
give
Winslow,
you
Arizona, right? And they had a bunch of different
no,
no
no, no, no. They
dwarves
didn't.
on their
No, they
mind.
didn't.
No,
And
Gimli wants to
this
hold
is
me,
Tolkien.
and
So there was not a girl. There was not a girl, my lord, because Tolkien only
didn't
included
write
female
women.
characters at
Yeah.
the insistence of his daughter. So yeah, no. Number one, good day, sir.
Uh-huh.
Number two, now you're shifting the goalposts because you started by asking me about the goddamn Eagles. Now you're bringing in this whole other.
I'll get to the
This
other one
whole other
later.
issue.
This was just to service the Eagles pun.
Okay. And service it you did.
I did.
So
I took it to the limit.
Okay. So to get back to the crux of your question here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to, or everybody who's not familiar with the Legendarium and came to it from the movies wants to just say, well, why didn't they just get on the Eagles and drop the ring from the air?
Right.
And the thing is, and I will say that this is a point from a strictly utilitarian standpoint. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But from the point of view of understanding the mindset of who's involved in the decision making, and when you understand the world building that went into everything beforehand, the Eagles are the servants / favorite creatures of Manwë, the Lord of the Airs of the Valar, who are essentially like the gods of Middle-earth, to simplify things a very great deal. And they generally are pretty aloof, and they don't get involved until they feel like they have to. And this would be a pretty good point at which to argue, well, maybe you need to.
Yeah.
Except you need to remember that Tolkien is a Catholic. And his headspace is one in which no matter how hard he tries, everything still has to serve a monotheistic Christian worldview. And the Eagles, as I have stated in a quote that's been used in our bumper, represent the grace of God, you edgelord motherfuckers. And so the thing is, you don't count on the grace of God. You do everything in your power to make sure that you are worthy of the grace of God, and then you have faith that it either will happen or it won't happen, and that's what your job as a Christian is to do. And so the Eagles show up to rescue them after they have gone through the trial, literally by fire, of getting the ring to Mount Doom and having Smeagol bite it off of Frodo's finger and then fall into the cauldron, because we have a whole lot of other Christian allegory that Tolkien would insist to his grave he didn't mean to write into it, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, the Eagles don't do it because, the short form is the Eagles don't do it because you, as anybody who has studied Christian theology knows, is you believe that miracles happen, but you don't go looking for them in any particular case.
That's kind of the most zen.
God helps those who helps themselves.
That's the most zen approach to miracles that I've ever heard. Like, you do you, and if they happen, cool. And if they don't, oh well. Like, that's just like that
Well,
level
you
of
know,
acceptance.
there's an argument to be made. There's an argument to be made for the universality of belief then, because
Yeah.
kind of got to say that's a thing.
Yeah. I kind of like it
So
because
you
there's
know,
like this
and
peaceful,
yeah,
easy feeling, and you know that God won't let you down, and you're already standing
why did I see that one coming
on the ground.
on the ground, on the ground, on the ground? Why didn't I see that coming? Oh,
You ready to go on?
Lord help me. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
All right. You
All right,
kind
I'm
of
ready
just
for.
wish I would come
Oh,
to my
you know what?
senses.
No, 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 no. Okay. No, I want to get back to your like. Okay, let's get into like deep logistics here. Why didn't they use wagons or horses or whatever? The in-universe explanation is, well, okay. The in-universe explanation for the eagles, of course, is that very shortly after they begin the quest, we find out that Sauron has been working on developing flying beasts for the Nine Riders.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they rode the Eagles, they'd still wind up running into, counter aircraft, basically. So, that doesn't work. Number two, the moment you take off from the ground and begin flying, you're a gigantic big fucking target.
Right.
And Sauron is going to figure out how to, because stealth is a critically important part of the whole mission.
Sure.
In order to get close enough to drop the fucking thing into Mount Doom. If you just announce, oh, hey, look, we're on the backs of the Eagles, hey, it's not like Sauron isn't a malevolent wizard himself.
Right. He's going to get you one of these nights.
Really kind of
and as soon as he sees you with his lion
actually,
eye, you're already gone.
Wow. like how much time have you spent looking at Eagles lyrics in order to prepare for this very conversation?
Not much. I wrote an email years ago.
I feel like you've cheated.
So,
oh my God. I feel like such small fry in comparison.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
I had to find something.
Especially in a place where there's a bunch of Ents, because then you've got a Glen fry.
Yeah. Oh.
So does Sauron have the ability to block out the sun? Does he know how to kill a sunrise?
Actually, I'm going to move past terrible, fucked up Eagles. And it is explicitly stated that utilizing the power of Mount Doom itself, he's able to generate clouds and clouds of roiling volcanic smoke.
Wow.
To turn Mordor essentially into a constant twilight to allow his not really creations but his minions to move about unbothered by the noonday sun.
Okay. So, next question.
So, yes.
Okay. Next question for you.
Okay.
Did the ring mess up Bilbo? And the reason I ask this is because he was already secretive and suspicious from The Hobbit forward.
Well, okay, you got to remember that by the time The Hobbit is written, of course, he's already been under the influence of it because he picks the ring up. The whole so this is one of those places where we have to wonder whether Tolkien was intentionally being genius or if he kind of fell backwards into really being really clever. And
you know which way I'm going to go with that.
Don't know as fell backwards.
Oh God, yeah. Everybody falls backwards into being clever.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's a fanon argument, and it has been for a very long time. As long as anybody, as fans have been discussing The Hobbit and the rest of the LOTR, that, obviously Bilbo is an unreliable narrator, and everything we read in The Hobbit has to be understood from that point of view.
Okay.
And the thing is, he doesn't write down the story of there and back again until after he's home with the ring in his
Oh, okay.
possession, sitting on the mantle in Bag End. And so, yeah, the ring did fuck him up.
Okay.
And I think, like we talked about in our episode about, Tolkien's experiences in World War One, I think this is one of those things where he couldn't help but kind of carry the idea of, an experience like that, traumatizing somebody and leaving somebody different than they were before they left. It's
Mhm.
kind of one of the themes of the story is that Bilbo's a different person when he comes home. And the extent to which he's a different person because, he left the Shire and came home and had this adventure and did all these things, and the extent to which he's a different person because, the ring has been, busy doing its mojo on him,
Mhm.
is something, that's really hard to parse. Like, we can't tell for sure. There's all kinds of discussion in Tolkien fan groups about, the whole story of the riddle contest in The Hobbit, in Riddles in the Dark, that
Right.
chapter in the book. How much of that version of the story is really reliable? Is telling us the full story of exactly how that happened, or did things go differently? And he's telling us the version that makes him look better.
Right. Is he fulfilling a
You know,
fantasy for himself?
and we can't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
That seems a
yeah,
little hand wavy,
and
but I'll accept it because
how that is.
I believe that Star Wars is R2D2 telling a story about how he was a hero, like the entirety of it. So I'll accept
Yeah,
that.
well, the prequel sure is. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, I
So yeah,
had
I mean,
jets. Like,
the answer is yeah, yeah. No, the short answer to that is that yeah, the ring did fuck him up. The
okay.
ring did mess with him, and it was only by issue of him deciding, what, I gotta retire, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna go, to Rivendell
Hmm.
and settle down, and the Sackville Bagginses can fucking hang, like I don't care. His whole decision to do that,
Hmm.
and I have to give Bilbo credit. His monologue to Frodo at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, where he talks like, I feel really stretched out. I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel worn out. I'm just so tired.
Hmm.
I mean, one of the things that I think is good in our day and age about the Lord of the Rings is that we actually have protagonists with a certain level of emotional intelligence. Like Bilbo recognizes at the beginning of the book that, like, no man, I need to get out of here. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm tired. I need to take care of me. And on a certain level, it's kind of frivolous and it's a little bit, hobbitish. I want to go, have a quieter party someplace else.
Hmm.
But by the same token, it takes a level of self-awareness and a level of willingness to make a change like that, to leave his favorite nephew behind and leave the Shire where he's lived all of his life, basically, except for the time that he was on his grand adventure,
Hmm.
and go say, you know what, I'm out of here. I gotta do something else. I gotta find a better place for me. And I think there is something valuable in that. And then Frodo is a hero who says, you know what, look, I don't know the way to Mordor, and I'm scared out of my mind, but you know what, I'm going to do it, like,
Right.
because somebody has to. And I wish this hadn't fallen to me, but it has.
Yeah.
And then Sam
Actually, Sam's my
says, all
next
right,
question.
well, okay, go
Yeah.
for it. Right on.
So, did the ring mess up Sam?
I'm going
Because
to
he
say the
seems
ring messed
unaffected.
up Sam a lot. I'm going to say it messed him up an awful lot less than Bilbo and Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that has to do with Tolkien's idealization of different classes being different,
Mm-hmm.
which I can explain in a second. And then I think, and to immediately answer the question, I think part of it has to do with, I think he was affected by it, but I think the way he was affected by it looks a lot more like the way an ordinary soldier is affected going off to war,
Okay.
which is, I just want to get home. I want to have my life, and I want to do the best I can being me. And I have this big, big, scary, dramatic thing that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the same person as I was when I started, but I may or may not really want to talk about what it is that made me different from when I left,
Very British.
if that makes sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
well, yeah,
It
very
does.
British, but I think also just, and so, and to get back to my thing about, class differences,
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about in the episode about Tolkien in World War One. Tolkien was from a kind of upper middle class kind of background,
Mm-hmm.
at least as far as his birth references. He didn't have a lot of money, but he was from a family that had upper class kind of
Right.
connection, or upper middle class kind of connections. And he was the standard of them. He was a general, and so when he went into the army, he was an officer,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to send a great many young men who were not from his social class
Mm-hmm.
out into the battlefield and had to watch a whole bunch of them die. And his view of men he was responsible for, and I genuinely think he really did look at it as he was responsible for those men.
Mm-hmm.
His view of his role as an officer and his view of their role as soldiers, I think, had a very profound impact on the differences between the way the ring affects Frodo and the way the ring affects Sam. Frodo fails.
Right.
It's really important to point out. At the very end of the day, standing over the crack of doom, Frodo says, "You know what? No, I'm not going to give it up," and winds up having to have Gollum bite his finger off,
Right. It's
and
it's
then
the
and
greed of
then
someone else
because
that
because
saves the world.
yeah, and he carries this burden, carries this burden, carries this burden, carries it stoically, and tries to do all this, and then ultimately winds up breaking. And I think that speaks to Tolkien's experience as an officer. I
Mm-hmm.
think that speaks to his experience of having to be the one responsible for all of these other people dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his view of, if he had faced the ultimate moral test in those circumstances, I think he honestly probably believed he probably wouldn't have passed.
Okay.
And I think maybe he felt he didn't pass because he did give the order for his men to go up over the top.
Right.
And maybe he felt like, and this is all speculation on my part after 2.5 years, a couple of shots, but my speculation is I get thinking about it right now that he might have felt like he did fail, like passing for him would have meant saying, you know what, no, I'm not going to send you to die up there. I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave the order because it was what had to be done.
Okay.
And meanwhile, his view of the men that he had been commanding is the way Sam is depicted, which is I'm loyal. I'm going to do what you tell me to do, and I love my country, I love my homeland, and I love and I don't have any grand ambition. I just want to get this done and go home.
Mm-hmm.
You
Okay.
know, and I think that's an idealized view. I don't think it's necessarily a false one.
Right. It's not
And
warts and all.
so I think Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's Vaseline on the camera lens, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not photoshopped.
Right.
If
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Oh, by the way, if
Okay.
anybody's interested, the Tolkien
Yeah.
episodes are episodes 11 and 12 of A Geek History of Time. So go back into the archives there. So where did the dwarves go after Gimli joined the Fellowship? Because there were plenty of dwarves and elves there, and only one of each race joined up. Like, we see elves later. I'm trying to think of the next time we see dwarves at all, and I can't think of it. Now, they figured in pretty heavy into The Hobbit, but where'd the rest of the dwarves go if this is an important thing? What'd they do about things?
Well, depending on which draft of Legendarium it is you're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
because Christopher Tolkien had spent the balance of his adult life going over his father's notes and trying to find answers to questions like this one. Um, there are a couple of things you need to know about the dwarves. Really, there's one thing you need to know about the dwarves, and that is they are like infamously insular. And the rationale for Gandalf spending all of the time he did in The Hobbit trying to make sure that Smaug got kicked out of the mountain basically has to do with Gandalf was at that time playing a long game. Like he knew that it was going to be beneficial to get the dwarves back into the mountain, and the dragon was a potential asset
Mm-hmm.
should anybody other than Sauron show up and decide they wanted to be the next Dark Lord. And then, of
Okay.
course, in the middle of The Hobbit, he realizes that Sauron is, still around and is in the process of becoming Sauron again, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes that much more urgent to make sure that Smaug is dealt with and gotten out of that position of defensibility. And so that's Gandalf's long game as the angel sent by Manwë to and Orome to figure out how to sort this out and deal with this problem in Middle Earth. Um, as for the actual answer to your question about what happened to the dwarves,
Mm-hmm.
um, there are different drafts of the Legendarium in which it is stated that they were busy dealing with, essentially orcs coming up out of the depths under their homes in the Iron Mountains,
Gotcha.
and that Sauron's assault on the free peoples was multi-frontal,
So he's
and they
distracting
were
a
busy
lot of
fighting
folks,
there.
right? So they can't band up.
Yeah,
Okay. Speaking of
yeah,
which, what happened to
yeah.
the population of Moria?
Moria.
Moria. Okay, what happened to them?
Uh, you mean before the Hobbit,
Yeah, like we see
or
the
do you,
mines of Moria, don't we?
yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
and it's
So,
overrun by goblins.
they, yeah,
Yeah.
many of those goblins marched to aid, I'm going to say it's Gothmog at the Battle of Five Armies.
Mm-hmm.
They came out that mountain range to assist the other orcs and goblins at the Battle of Five Armies. And now I'm trying to remember. Hold on. All right. So, yeah, no, Moria being what it was at the time of the end of the Lord of the Rings, at the time of the Return of the King, it was still overrun by goblins, and they went to aid. I'm sorry, not the Battle of Five Armies. They went to aid the rest of Sauron's forces
Mm-hmm.
at the Pelennor Fields. Sorry, I'm drunk. Forgive me. So yeah, they were they
Okay.
were they were part of that force.
All right. This is a softball for you. Why is Gimli so attracted to elves if he's so prejudiced against them? Because he has a huge crush on Galadriel. Is that her name? Yeah, because he asks for
Yes,
her hairs,
that is her name.
right?
Yeah, he does. And the thing is, there's a couple of different things going on there.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I'm going to say is that, if you check categories, the hit rate for different categories on, let's say, adult entertainment websites, you're going to find that, tags like interracial happen to coincide very heavily. Traffic to those kind of tags happen to coincide very heavily with, places that have reputations for being immensely racist.
That's a good point.
So I'm just going to say there's something there. But the other to get closer to what Tolkien was actually going for is Gimli has an ingrained, taught from his childhood, antipathy for the elves because of the way his father was treated by Legolas's dad on the way to the mountain to fight the dragon. And because, of course, elves and dwarves have just kind of had the dwarves, I mean, honestly, I can't really disagree with them. The dwarves look at elves and they think, what a bunch of fucking hippies. Like, they live in the woods, and like we never really hear anything about any of them doing an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Dwarves are a kind of an embodiment of the Protestant work ethic, which is really funny coming from a Catholic author, but there you go. And elves are kind of literally airy-fairy and immortal, and they don't really have to work for reasons we never really get explained to us. But they're just naturally good at everything they do because elves,
right?
And so there's some resentment there. And then Gimli shows up and he's got all of these prejudices, and then he encounters Galadriel, who I need to take a moment to point out. Galadriel, if you read the Legendarium, if you read all the other stuff outside of the novels themselves, you come to find out that Galadriel is actually a stone badass. Like, it's not just that she's a very powerful, essentially sorceress, as we see in the movies, portrayed so incredibly well by Cate Blanchett. It's not just that she's this wizardress of the wood. She was one of the very first generation of the Noldor, which is a particular subfamily of the elves, who came from the far west into Middle-earth. And in order to do that, they essentially kind of threw the finger to the Valar. And she has essentially spent the last several thousand years kind of in exile in Middle-earth. And so she is incredibly old. Like, Legolas is literally a child compared to her. It's like the comparison of Legolas would be a teenager and she would be a centenarian. I mean, in human terms, it's this incredible difference in their age and experience. And so there is an awful lot of backstory in the scene where she talks to Frodo and is confronted by the ring. Her talking about, I would be a queen, and everyone would love me and fear, is and then her saying, okay, no, I'm going to be diminished and I'm going to go into the West, is her essentially saying, okay, look, I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to go back to where I came from.
Okay.
And there is and she was a particularly proud rebel in the First Age or the Second Age, coming to Middle-earth in the first place. And so she is this figure of immense power and immense feminine power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Gimli is for all of his inbred, meaning bred into him, not that his
Right,
parents were
not that
siblings
he
or
was shagging
anything,
his
but
cousin.
for all of the for all of the antipathy that he's been taught to hold for elves, he is essentially an honest. He's one of the most honest, plain spoken, straight up characters in the
He is.
Fellowship,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what he embodies. And he cannot help but be struck by her power and her charisma and her beauty. And there's a wonderful scene between him and Legolas, and this has been dissected on Tumblr, but I'm going to go through it here anyway because it's worth talking about. There's this wonderful scene in the book, and Steve Jackson did a great job of translating it into the film, where everybody's talking about, what did Galadriel give you? And Gimli says, I asked her for but one single strand of her golden hair.
Right.
And she gave me 3.
Yeah.
And Legolas is listening to this, and he smiles, and you're like, okay, well, that's really sweet. Okay, now here's the deal. Legolas is like, a cousin to multiple people who are involved in the backstory in this. And so he knows all of the drama. And the drama is that back in the first age of Middle Earth, back like literally thousands of years before this happened, and I'm trying to figure out how to simplify this, the high elf who is responsible for crafting absolutely the most beautiful gemstones ever cut by any craftsman ever in the history of Middle Earth, went to Galadriel and said, I need a strand of your hair because your beauty is so surpassing that it will allow me to create something. And she looked at him and said, no, you're a dick. Fuck off.
But she gave it to lowly Gimli.
But she gave no. She gave 3 of them to Gimli. And so to Legolas, that's like, okay, you know what? She thinks you're all right, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
She measured you and did not find you wanting, because Feanor was the greatest, most cunning, most skilled, most powerful craftsman of all of the elves, and she told him to pound sand because he was an egotist and a narcissist and a fuckwit. And so you asked for 1 strand. She said, no, here you go, have 3.
Okay.
So there is a message in that story that, unfortunately, because of the density of the universe that Tolkien created, 99.9% of readers and viewers never get.
Right.
But if you spend the time to learn to read the Silmarillion and learn that, you're like, oh wait, hold on, wow, Gimli rocks, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
Clearly Galadriel thinks he does. So there you go.
Sure. Okay. All right. Back to the humans. Why did the king trust a guy named Wormtongue?
For the to understand that, you need to know something about Viking kennings.
Okay.
And the best introduction I can give to that is to understand that one of the biggest badasses in all of Viking history was known as Ragnar Lothbrok. And Lothbrok literally means, well, depending on which way you translate it, either means goat britches or fuzzy britches. And this was a man who killed thousands. I'm just saying. And so a worm with a Y, should be noted, with a Y, not an O. That's a kind of dragon. I'll have to look it up. No, actually it is. Yeah, well, actually, no, I'm wrong. It is an O.
Oh, okay.
But it should be pointed out that to the Vikings, calling somebody Wormtongue would mean they are very cunning with their words, and it might mean, okay, no, look, you need to keep an eye on this guy, but it also just might mean that this guy is a very cunning wordsmith. This is a guy who can be very crafty with what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't necessarily mean you as the king need to be wary of him. It might just mean this is a guy who is very capable of turning words around,
Mm.
of putting phrase together real well, who's just very convincing. And so yeah, I mean, to a modern reader, you're like, well, the guy's name is fucking Wormtongue. Like, worms are gross, dude. Like, come on. If you understand that, the writers of Rohan are a fantasy idealized version of, the Anglo-Saxons of Dark Ages England, it kind of becomes clear that Wormtongue still doesn't sound great, but it's
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily as pejorative to somebody from that culture as it is to a modern ear.
I guess it's just like,
And
okay,
so,
so my last name is Harmony. And if I played music and never stopped, I just was always strumming at something or always blowing on something or whatever,
yeah,
you would be right in blaming the person who had me along if they're complaining that, God, he never stops playing music. It's like, fucker, his last name's Harmony. What'd you expect? So it
yeah,
still comes down to like, his name means like cunning tongued one. Like, if anybody's going to sweeten the ears of the king for his own designs. But okay. So here's a question about more about the king.
okay.
If Faramir and Boromir's dad, the king, is such an obvious prick,
Steward, not a king.
he's not okay.
Steward. He doesn't
Important
come
then.
from the royal line of Arnor.
Okay. So if he's
Fuck that. He's a
if
steward.
okay, not a king, steward. If
Okay.
he's such an obvious prick, why do the other humans allow Boromir to join the Fellowship in the first place instead of just brooming him and going, no, 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 your dad's a dick. Never mind.
Well, okay. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
his dad is a dick, and we are a lot more privy to what a dick he is than anybody in universe is. I'm going to argue this is a point where we
Okay.
as readers are privileged. Everybody in universe just knows he is the steward of Gondor, and his two sons are the champions of Gondor. And Faramir is the captain of the Rangers and is doing all this stuff, out in Ithilien, and Boromir is, captain general, of the army, badass. And the extent to which their father is a dick is something that we see because we wind up being sitting right there in the throne room with Pippin, and we hear from Faramir about it.
Right.
And Faramir is, of course, the unfavored son. Boromir is the favored son. And the extent to which the steward has been turned and filled full of despair and convinced that there is no resisting, that they're all going to die and there's nothing they can do about it, isn't something that becomes clear to anybody but Pippin, essentially, and Gandalf, because he's a wizard. That doesn't become visible to anybody until like the point at which he actually tries to set himself and his younger son on fire. We're privy to stuff that he says that he doesn't say in front of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we wind up being privy to understanding that no, he has a Palantir and he's been using it, which is dangerous because he's not one of the chosen people who's powerful enough to do that without being corrupted by Sauron, etc., etc., etc. And so when he says, all right, well, there's this council thing going on at Elrond's place, I'm going to send my son, everybody's like, well, yeah, of course you're going to send your son. Your son's a stone killer.
Right.
Yeah, your son's a badass. Boromir is the man, dude. And so, I think that's a case of us as, like I say, it's the case of us as the reader being privileged information or becoming privileged information that people in universe don't really have.
Okay, that's fair.
if that makes sense.
It does, because we're able to knit
And then,
together all the parts of the narrative, whereas anybody around him is only seeing a sliver. So that's fair.
yeah. And then, the other thing is, I think one of the things that Steve Jackson did remarkably well
Mm-hmm.
in the film, and Sean Bean deserves like all the credit in the world for portraying this really well, is it's really easy for somebody as the reader to look at Boromir and go like, well, this guy's just a dick. Like from day
Mm-hmm.
one, he's a prick. Screw him. And the thing is, no, Boromir was intended by Tolkien, and I think really, really is, and I think Jackson does a great job of portraying him as truly a tragic figure. He really does, honest to God, want to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
He really does. In the end, he wants to save Minas Tirith. He wants to save his city. He wants to make his father proud of him. He wants to save his brother, who, we come to find out he and his brother have a really great relationship, even though their father has a shitty relationship with the younger one and dotes on the older one. The two of them, Boromir, is portrayed as being the guy you'd want to have as your older brother in that kind of situation. He really is a lawful good character who falls.
Mm.
And Sean Bean, I think, gives a really great performance showing that he winds up making a horrible mistake for I think as close to the right reasons as you can think of, and he winds up paying for it. And in the movie, he has that wonderful moment where he looks at Aragorn and has that wonderful speech about, my city with the banners on the white walls, and, my captain, my king, and all of that.
Right.
Which doesn't happen in the book. And I think it's one of the things that Jackson added to the movie that I think actually improves on the book, because in the book, Boromir doesn't have that moment of redemption. Boromir doesn't have that moment of, having that recognition of, look, I really made a mistake, and I really wish I could fix it, but I can't.
Right.
And I think Tolkien kind of tried to do that, but it does, because of the nature of the medium, it doesn't come across the same way as it does with Sean Bean having that wonderful death speech in the film. And so I think Boromir kind of gets a raw deal. His father doesn't get a raw deal. His father's a dick.
Yeah.
But I think Boromir suffers because his father is a dick, and so I feel like I kind of need to say that.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Let's see. We've got looks like 5 or 6 more, so I'll hit you rapid fire. Give me your best 2-paragraph answer to each. Why are the elves all about leaving and therefore not fighting against Sauron if they don't do it until years later when Frodo is finally ready to go as well? Like, I would get it if they were going to do it mid sentence while he's still going to toss the ring, but he tosses the ring, and then years and years later, that's when they all leave. So why aren't they jumping in on it?
They're not jumping in on it because, wow, there's a whole lot of backstory involved there.
Mm-hmm.
The simple version of it is, they do everything on an extremely extended time scale to begin with. Number one, because they're immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to them, Frodo throwing the ring in and them leaving are almost concurrent, even though it's, to us, decades later.
Right.
To them, that's like whatever, a decade is a blink of the eye. So there's that, which is kind of the easy pat, kind of hand wavy answer.
Yeah, it's very hand wavy.
The other answer is, again, one of the things that I think Jackson did right with the movies is, at the very beginning of the very first movie, we hear Cate Blanchett as Galadriel saying, "The world has changed." I feel it I smell it in the air, or I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Whatever, however it is she said the next part. But the world is fundamentally different. One of the things that I think is profoundly important about the message of the Lord of the Rings is that by throwing the ring into Mount Doom, or failing to throw the ring and having Gollum do it for him, but you get what I'm saying. The destruction of the ring literally winds up destroying magic in Middle Earth. When the ring goes, everything else that is supernatural has to go, whether immediately or over time. And so the ring goes, and at that point it's like, okay, well, the elves have been planning on leaving anyway for a while, so now we really need to do it. And because the extended time scale, it takes them a while. But, beforehand they were like, okay, no, look, this place is going to be lost to Sauron. We got to get out of here. And they were in the process of departing already. But it's the thing is when Frodo and Bilbo leave at the end, they are leaving with, the subtext is that them and Gandalf are kind of, if not the very last ship, then they're one of the last ones going.
Right.
And so it's not so much that the elves don't leave until 20 years later, it's that it takes 20 years for that migration to finally come to an end.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that migration becomes inevitable because the ring has been destroyed, and now all of the elves who were the firstborn of the speaking races are now going to go back to heaven, essentially, with the Valar, and they're heading back to the far west.
All right. Okay. Couple more questions. Why can Tom Bombadil see Frodo with his ring on?
Tom fucking Bombadil. Here's the deal. Depending on where you stand in the fandom, Tom Bombadil is either the most important linchpin in all of the mythology of Middle Earth, or he's a singularly annoying self-insert by Tolkien. And I kind of think he's both.
Okay.
And so the thing is, Tom Bombadil. Sauron is essentially a fallen angel of the highest order.
Okay.
Gandalf is a fallen angel of a slightly lower order. The Balrog is a fallen angel. There's all these kind of angelic kind of figures. Manwë and Orome and Yavanna and all of the Valar in the very far west are like the gods. But they are subservient to Eru, the one Iluvatar, who is, God, because Tolkien was a Catholic, and at the end of the day, it has to be monotheistic. But anyway, so Tom Bombadil, to use a really weak analogy, Tom Bombadil is like one of the Titans. Okay, so the Valar are the gods, and the Maiar are the demigods or the lesser gods. And then Tom Bombadil is this elemental figure who kind of arose out of creation spontaneously on his own. And he's kind of like the avatar of the earth itself. And so because he is that, because he is not... He is immortal. He might very well be unkillable, like by anything we don't know. And he's so intrinsically tied to the earth itself that like the ring doesn't hold any kind of interest or promise, because the ring is all based on Sauron being, an ambitious sociopath motherfucker who's like, okay, look, I want to control the world. I'm going to impose order on the world if I have to choke every motherfucker in it to death, a la Darth Vader. And to Tom Bombadil, that's like, who cares? Like, the world is the world. Nature is nature. Like, I'm fine with just, like, the world being the way it is. And I have no interest in any of this dominion. I have no interest in any of this kind of rulership kind of crap. So, like, who cares? And so because he is depending on who you talk to, it's either because he's so completely divorced from reality, or it's because he is so incredibly powerful himself that, like, it just has no interest for him.
Okay.
And the reason he is that character
Mm-hmm.
is either because Tolkien was trying to say something about nature versus technology, which is
Mm-hmm.
possible, or I think more likely, whatever he's saying about nature versus technology is entirely unintentional, and that was him creating this character as a self-insert, and then Goldberry, the wife of Tom Bombadil, is
Mm-hmm.
Tolkien's wife, who, as we've spoken of before, Tolkien was absolutely besotted with.
Right.
Like in one of the most, like, oh my god, that is so sweet, I'm gonna die kind of love stories.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, he had to find a way to put her in there as this, most beautiful, river's daughter kind of figure, and himself as this goofy, sing-songy poet, weird nature god kind of figure. And that's really sweet, and if you want to draw symbolism out of that from his subconscious, then that's awesome, but there you go.
Okay. So let's see. In the time that we've got left, I'm going to ask you
Yes.
2 questions about tactics. First
Okay.
off, and again, limit it to 2 paragraphs here. Why didn't the beacon lighting also
Right.
alert
That's right.
Sauron? And why not stop that first?
Okay. So the beacon lighting almost undoubtedly did alert Sauron.
Okay.
Number one. There's no getting around that. Lighting a beacon alerts everybody. Like, anybody who can see the beacons knows, oh hey, the jig is up. Well,
Right.
shit. Okay. And as far as why not stop that first, the thing is, beacon lighting, I mean, from classical history, from teaching Latin,
Mm-hmm.
that the Romans used systems of beacons, as part of their military tactics and strategy.
This is true.
And of course, in the Sengoku Jidai in Japan, there are some very elaborate systems of beacons that were put in place by a number of different daimyo. The one that immediately comes to mind is a system put in place by Takeda Shingen, that involved watchtowers that were 30 or 40 feet high, and these
Mm-hmm.
big huge levers and these huge fires at the tops of them. Well, the thing is, I mean, obviously that's an unambiguous signal that can be made out by everybody everywhere. So that did, I mean, yeah, that totally
Okay.
did alert Sauron. And
Okay.
Sauron and all of his generals knew that eventually the riders of Rohan were going to show up. They may not have accounted for Theoden, son of Thengel, being quite the incredible motherfucking badass that he was,
Mm-hmm.
and giving quite such a stirring speech to his men before they charged at the Pelennor Fields. I'm going to say Aragorn is a really great leader of people. If I
Mm-hmm.
had to work for anybody, and especially if I had to follow anybody on the battlefield, I could do a lot worse than Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
True.
But I will tell you right now, if I want to give anybody the job of giving me a motivational speech before I go off to kill some motherfucking orcs, Theoden, son of Thengel, is the one I want to do that, because speaking as a student of medieval Saxon English, to the extent that I am one, and a student of the Middle Ages, the speech he gives to the Rohirrim before the Battle of the Pelennor Fields is one that like knocks it out of the park. Uh, a sword day, a red day,
Right.
and then ending it by riding down the line, banging his sword on the spears of all of the lancers in the front rank, just
Mm-hmm.
getting everybody to shout, "Death, death!" And
Pretty
like,
metal.
every time I watch, oh my god, it's not only metal, it brings a tear to my goddamn eye. I like, oh my. So the thing is, you have to keep in mind that, okay, Sauron knows these guys are coming, but there's only so much he can do.
Okay.
Based on the rules of the universe. He knows they're coming, and he thinks, well, I just have a bigger fucking army, and I have the Witch King, who no man can kill.
Right.
Only to find out, fucker, I am no man.
Right.
And by the way, I think it's worth noting here that scene was inspired by Tolkien having read Macbeth years before and thinking, well, that's really disappointing. You mean to tell me the answer is that he was born by cesarean section? And that means that he can get around the prophecy? Well, that's bullshit. No, I don't. No, that's not sufficiently metal. No, I'm going to have him get killed by a woman, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because I think that's an unsatisfying narrative device, and partly because my daughter is now bugging me about the fact that I've gotten 2.5 books through this series, and I don't have any compelling female characters to show for it.
Sure.
So fan criticism for the win there.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You said to keep it below 2 paragraphs.
Well, I've
I know
said that for the last 20 minutes. So
hit me again.
Helm's Deep.
Hit me again.
Helm's Deep. The one thing that could
yes.
beat Helm's Deep was a siege, because it's built into a mountain. Why didn't they think of that and not build it into a mountain or make a moat?
Okay. First things first, we're talking about a society that has a tech level roughly comparable to the late Dark Ages. And so the concept of defense in depth is not one anybody had considered yet.
Okay.
And mobility warfare, the only people mobility warfare had worked for were the Mongols. And in episodes 11 and 12, we talked about the rather problematic issues of Mongols being related to the tropes associated with orcs.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it was in a later episode that I actually talked about orcs in depth, of course.
Yes.
And Tolkien having some, carrying some unfortunate, connotations there. So the idea of mobility warfare is kind of one that, as an Englishman of his generation, Tolkien would not have been up on.
Okay.
For lack of a better word. And so within the milieu, or the paradigm, in which the Riders of Rohan were operating, siege warfare is just kind of what everybody would have done in that situation. And if you get attacked by a massively superior force, getting yourself to a fortress where you have defenses and a food supply and water and et cetera, is what you just did.
Okay.
Now, I will counter my own argument by saying that, of course, the Riders of Rohan are primarily a cavalry force, and so the idea of mobility should have been part of their go-to, but then you look at medieval history and you look at knights being cavalry and castles still being the main mechanism of warfare in that time period, and paradigms don't always make sense.
Okay, that's fair. Final question. Why do the ring wraiths suck so badly?
All right.
Like, they get distracted by mushrooms at one point, I think. And they're supposed to be like these great human kings who took rings, and they can find the ring anywhere, except if, like, Merry or Pippin throws food off to the side. Why are they so shitty at their jobs?
Well, okay, I think you're mischaracterizing part of it, for one thing.
Totally fair.
But so number one, there's narrative devices involved. Because if they were really, really inerringly good at their job, there wouldn't be a novel. But
that's really shitty hand wave.
Yeah, well, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But I think more to the point. I think there's a fundamental assumption made by Tolkien in his world building about the nature of evil. Is that yeah, they're incredibly powerful and terrifying, and oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, they're scary as all hell. And if you are not, sufficiently prepared, or what have you, then yeah, no, they're visions of terror, but they are also fundamentally broken, and they know where the ring is, or they can sense they can sense the ring in this kind of like, they know where they need to go, and you can't ever totally 100% shake them. But in the moment, it's important to note that in the physical world they are largely blind, and
Okay.
there is a very powerful symbolism involved in that, the moment Frodo puts the ring on, they're like, oh no, we see you, motherfucker, we know
Right.
exactly where you are.
They see what's invisible.
But when he's dealing, they see what's invisible because they themselves are operating mostly on that plane,
Mm-hmm.
because they have been utterly and thoroughly corrupted to the point that they can't see literally what is true in front of their face. They have been so completely twisted by the lies of Sauron that they are now operating on a parallel level where they're only kind of half interacting with the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
And you point out, they were supposed to be these kings of men. I think we're living through a moment where it's really clear to notice, or it's really, 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 unfortunately, unavoidably obvious, that very powerful men are capable of ignoring the real world in favor of what they think is important to them.
Okay.
And these are very powerful men who accepted rings from Sauron as gifts of power, of more power, of a reinforcement of their own importance.
Long
And
past their due.
so, yeah, long, long past their expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have been so thoroughly corrupted by that in some ways they have become unimaginably powerful, and in other ways they are utterly blinkered and blind to the truth of the world around them.
Okay. Well, that's it for my questions, and it seems like that's it for your buzz.
All right.
So, I would ask what you're reading,
You
but
know, it
most people would want to read Lord of the Rings now.
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
at this point what I'm going to say is, if you have already read The Lord of the Rings and you haven't read The Silmarillion, I'm going to say, yes, it's intimidating, but read it anyway.
Okay.
If you have seen the movies but you haven't read the books, I'm going to say, take the time, read the books. My mother, very notably, picked up The Hobbit, got about 3 pages into it, and couldn't get any farther because Tolkien spent the amount of time he did talking about the hair on Bilbo's feet. Yes, these kinds of things are obstacles to some people. I understand that. Give it a chance. Keep reading a little farther, and once you actually get into the actual story, it's a classic. I mean,
All right.
it's as popular as it is for a reason, and so I'm going to pitch that.
Okay. The only thing I'm going to pitch is going to be the show that I do every Friday night at 8:30, twitch.tv
Yes,
/
sir.
capital puns. As well as I do a wrestling streaming show every Sunday night at 8:30, twitch.tv / calling it in the ring. And that's all I'll pitch for this week, because we just gave you a whole bunch of literature. But next week we'll be
Yes.
back with more fun stuff and probably even worse stories from the news. But
God, I hope not. But yeah,
yeah, there's
probably.
not enough beer in the world for you there. But for a Geek
No,
History
no,
of
there
Time,
really is.
I'm Damian Harmony.
And I'm Ed Blaylock, and until next time, watch out for Dwimmerlack.